Hi, in this video I will take the example of the food demand to stress how information can enrich the use that we can make by forecasting only on the data. So food is interesting to study because there is a large historical data record of food consumptions and because since agri-food business is so important for most economies, a lot of researchers chose to focus on this specific market to develop specific forecasting methods. So like uh, many other items, food demand depends on price, quality of the product, which can be evaluated on an objective manner through nutritional aspect, but can also be evaluated through a lot of subjective manners. Food demand will also depend on incomes from the market and beliefs from the people on the market, from the customers themselves. What is common in most of the products and can be also found in food items is that an increase of prices will decrease the demand, and that an increase of incomes will also increase the demand. What is interesting regarding food is that the link between increase will be different. The impact of an increase in income will be different depending on the kind of products you consider. Let's take an example. If someone gets a 5% raise in income, it is mostly probable that he or she will increase his consumption of rib steak, which is considered as a luxury product. That is her consumption of a standard product like grated cheese will follow this increase, but that inferior products or products that are considered as less nutritional or less tasty will decrease. For instance, canned ravioli demand will decrease if you have a rise. So this is interesting because it means that not only do you have to study the income of the customers to know what they will buy, but you also have to understand how they rate the products. Are the products that you are trying to forecast considered as luxury product or are inferior products? And this is important because it will impact the way people will consume them. In food, like many other products, the demand is depending on other products. What is interesting in the food industry is that we can see products that are complementary and products that are substitutes. For instance, cereal and milk are complementary products. You will not eat your cereals for breakfast without milk. So if you increase the price of one of those products, there will be consequences on the consumption for the other. So this is important to follow. If you are monitoring the consumption of milk, you also have to be interested in data regarding cereals because they will have an impact. And substitutes are also very important, like for instance butter and margarine. You cannot put both on your bread. You cannot put both on your pan to cook. So if the price of one rises, it is probable that they will have impact on the consumption of the other. In food, like many industry, many products, demand and price will be constrained by availability. and season. Like every product, the prices will be high when the offer is low. This is the law of offer and demand. But what is quite specific is that the price will be high when the quality of the product will be the lowest. For instance, if you want to buy strawberries for Christmas, then the quality of the strawberry will be very poor. There is no strawberry in winter in Europe, so you will have to import them from far away. You will have to put them in ships or airplane when they are green, and so the quality of the product will be very poor. But still, you will be able to charge a higher price for it. So this is interesting. And one specificity of food demand is that because of the fact that the goods will perish, most of the consumers will stick to a limited local offer. You will not try to buy your chocolate or your coffee from Amazon if you can buy them in the store next to you. That is, if you are allowed to go out of your home, of course. But people tend to stick to a limited and local offer. So this will also impact the way the demand will be modeled. Because there is so many aspects that are specific to food, researchers tried to model behavior and consumptions outside the raw data. I'll talk to you about forecasting using data and basic statistical means or advanced statistical techniques to forecast data. Those researchers, they tried to model and forecast food consumption, food demand, using behavioral info. So for instance, this first model, which is the household production function, is based on the theory that food goods are not used raw. They are used only to produce meals, which is the final objective of household. So you're not only buying an egg, you're buying an egg, you're buying energy, you're buying and then using a pan in order to make yourself an omelette. So this is interesting because based on this assumption, on this modeling assumption, the demand will then depend on the composition of the household. The more the merrier, but the more the bigger meals you have to produce, and the availability of resources. So that means that if you are missing one of the resources, the equipment, the time, the manpower, then you will have to look elsewhere to produce the meals, which is interesting because then you can integrate information that you have regarding the household composition. Using this model, you are able to understand how the increase of female employment had an impact on the demand for ready-to-use lettuce, because one of the resources, which is time, was scarce because the time you spend at work, you are not spending cooking. So this is one of the resources was scarce. So that explains why the demand for ready-to-use products increase. This is also the way you can explain how food away from home consumption increased, only using a societal behavior. So this is one model, and another model which was built around the same time is that food should be considered not differently as any product, which is quite interesting because of all I said before. But it was this is the assumption behind this model. So in order to know what make a product, a food product, good to buy or not, you have to evaluate through money evaluation all of its attributes. So you have to determine which attributes you can find in a given product, and then evaluate each product regarding those criteria. And depending on the area in space or time where you are, the relative weight of the attribute will then be different. For instance, if you are in vacation, you have time, and you are taking care of yourself, you will have more weight on the health aspect and less on the practicality of the food items you are considering buying. If, on the contrary, you are very busy working, then practicality will be of the essence. So this is interesting to know. How can we describe the product? Which attributes can we choose? And then how can we value those attributes to model the way people will buy food items? And by doing so, you can forecast how they will react to a new product, because you will be able to evaluate the attributes of the new product before going on the market, which is very, very important. It's important because, as you can see on this slide, from data from 2015, only 17% of the new food product survived the year, which means that products were developed, marketed, they were available on the stores, and then they disappeared because there was no market for them. So it's a high and risky business, the development of new food items. The failure costs are very high because the R&D costs are important. You have not only to find a good recipe, but make sure that you have the equipment to produce them, while respecting all the law and regulation of food items, which are quite strong. And people tend to be risk adverse regarding novelty in food. So you have to spend a lot of money in advertisement when you are trying to launch a new product. So this is high investment, and when it fails, it's a high burden. So the consumer has a lot of power, and it's interesting to understand or try to understand how this preference is built. So of course, the impact of the brands and the corporate image of the different food companies is very important, but so are the labels and the certifications. So a lot of factors come into the decision of buying a food product, and a lot of them are still unknown or misunderstood even today. And also the behavior of the consumer are changing. So a lot of research are done on this topic, both on the academia world, but also on the firms level. So every huge food company has its own R&D, and they are working on the recipes, they are working on the industrial aspect of the production, but they are also working on understanding what thrives the act of buying a product. And what is quite new in the behavior of consumer is the political aspect of buying a food product. It's quite important and impact, but it's not well evaluated yet. So how do the religious and ethical beliefs impact the act of buying a product? How do the social and environmental consideration impact on this action? And how do the norms have an impact on the action of buying a product? And this is not new. I give you here an example. In 1966, the Pope, which was Paul VI, lifted um, a strong Catholic mandatory behavior, which was to not eat any meat on Fridays. So this came from the Middle Age, and it was only lifted in 1966. So before that, if you were a good Catholic, you didn't eat meat on Fridays. After that, you could. So it had a direct impact on the consumption of fish, which dropped after this speech from the Pope. So this is interesting to see how the religious belief and this interpretation by the church had an impact on the food demand. Of course, today, what's important to understand and to forecast for food companies is how the environmental aspect will be considered by the market, but also how the political aspect will be considered. Nowadays, it's quite usual for political leaders to act and on asking people to do by their action of buying what they cannot do by law. So it's very difficult for a country to say, okay, we want to give advantage to our own local production because of the world trades contract is very complicated. But you can say to your own population, okay, please only buy things that were produced here or farmed here. And then you don't know how the people will react. So this is very interesting and very difficult to model.